It took me 16 years, payday to payday, quit smoking to build it. I always tell people this is my tobacco money. I started in 1986 and I finished it in 2001, so 15 years. Well, a friend of mine, I was, I don't know, 14 I guess, and a good friend of mine, his older brother, he had a 55 or 56 Ford two-door hardtop. I used to sit on the curb and just stare at that car for, it seemed like hours, but to me it was the coolest car on the planet. When I got a little older, I bought a 51 Ford, four-door sedan, and I drove it and kept blowing the transmission, and I just turned 16. I was working in a gas station. Finally, I decided to put an overhead valve motor in it with the help of one of the older guys in the gas station, and I got it running, and then I bought a 34 Ford. My first hot rod was 17. I bought a 34 Ford channeled three-window coupe. I think I paid about $200 for it. And we took it out to my friend's farm and just typical block and tackle underneath a tree, swapped the motor out, and I got the car running, and I drove it for a couple of years. It was basically a death trap, but when you're 16 or 17 years old, you think you're the coolest guy on the planet driving a real hot rod down the main street. So my dad sort of suggested that maybe you should sell this car and get something safer. And I said, well, I'd like to buy a 66 Chevelle off a friend of mine. It was only 2 weeks old. And he said, well, you're working now, I'll co-sign a loan for you. So my dad co-signed a loan, and he told me, as long as it's not got a big motor in it. Well, hello, 396 four-speed 66 Chevelle. I like working on cars for myself. I didn't fancy working on cars as a profession, which would have probably been it's a great profession, because I have friends and family that are mechanics, and they're awesome mechanics, but I just loved working on cars and building hot rods. My family moved out here in 1968 to Nanaimo, and I came a year later. But my brother-in-law in Nanaimo, he had a Model A that's been in the family since 1963. So he kind of got me rekindled into hot rodding again. So I bought a Model T Coupe, went back to Yorkton, found a Model T Coupe, dragged it out to BC, and proceeded to build a street rod out of it. In 1978, my wife and I, we drove it to the Street Rod Nationals in Columbus, Ohio. When I got back, I decided I wanted something bigger, so I looked around and I found this car. Back in those days, to go to any street rod event, you had to have a pre-1948 car. And I thought, well, I can get into the street rod events with a 47 Ford. It's got a back seat, it's a family style car. So I started building this car. It's a 350 Chev, 3-speed Chevy standard transmission. It's got a 65 Ford pickup, 9-inch Ford rear end in it. It's got drum brakes, 56 Ford drum brakes on the front. It's a dependable car. It's got 605 power, Saginaw power box out of a 79 Grand Prix Pontiac in it. It's a really nice highway car. It's got lots of miles on it. This is my favorite car. When the new Corvettes came out, I just happened to be down at Wolf Chevrolet one day, and I saw a Corvette, a brand new C4 Corvette sitting up on the rack. So being a guy who likes making things, I got my tape measure out and I'm measuring it all up, and I thought, geez, I could really make that look slick. I measured it all up, and I was going to build a frame for this car. And my friend Sandy, who painted it, he says, you tear this car all apart, you might be apart for a couple of years. He says, why don't you build a Woody? He says, cool car, lots of room. And he said, I know you don't want to build it to sell it, but if you had to sell it, it's worth a lot of money. And this car was advertised in Hemmings back in the old days, long before internet. It said 46 Ford Woody, excellent original wood, Bryan, California. The car was in a shop right next to Roy Brizio's street rod shop in San Francisco. So a really good friend of mine is very good friends with Roy Brizio. So I got my friend to phone him, and his first reaction is, I don't want to be responsible for telling the guy it's a good car, and he gets down here and it's a piece of junk. So I said, all I care about is, what's the wood like? Sandy's a great body man. He says, what's the wood like? And he says, the wood is really nice. Because I had to make a decision right away. So I basically bought it sight unseen. But the guy was pretty fair. So I bought it, and a week later I went down and we got our home, and the rest is history. All original wood, just like it is on the car. One panel had some blistering in it, but a friend of mine, Gary Lang, who just passed away, phenomenal woodworker, one of the most talented guys on the Lower Mainland, he said, why don't you just replace all the wood? I've got some 45 or 50-year-old Philippine mahogany plywood. Why don't we just replace the outside panels? So he cut me all new wood, and I spent a winter changing all the outside panels, but all the hardwood is all 100% original. Well, mechanically, I built a complete new chassis with all Corvette front and rear suspension. I bought a Corvette front end with a Corvette rear end. I built the chassis. I used a stock 48 Ford frame. Spent a lot of hours out here on my knees on the bench, measuring. And what I did is I put a brand new Corvette up on the frame table at Wolf Chevrolet, and I took all the measurements off the Corvette, all the suspension measurements, and I built a jig in my garage, and I transferred all those measurements into the jig. And when I got it all finished, I thought, that suspension doesn't know whether it's under a Corvette or a 47 Ford, because I changed nothing. I figured if GM got it right, then I'll get it right. So that's what I did. I copied GM. My friend who worked at Wolf Chevrolet, he said to me, what kind of motor are you putting in? And I said, well, I just want to probably put a small block automatic in it. And he says, well, his friend worked at United Auto Wreckers. He says, they got 3 brand new Camaros in there that were stolen and recovered by the police. He said, why don't you phone them and see what they're going to do with them? So I phoned the guy up, and he says, we're parting them out. They told me what the motor was. It was a Tuneport 350 Chevy with a 700 R4 automatic. So I bought the motor and transmission. It only had 104 miles on it. They were brand new when they stolen off the car lot. So I bought the motor and transmission, and when I went to pick it up, I got all the wiring from the car, right from the headlights right to the taillights. I got the gas tank, the full exhaust system. I think they just dumped all the stuff on me that they didn't want to get rid of themselves, which worked out good because I took all the wiring. My buddy Brian, who was a wiring specialist for Wolf's, an electronics guy, he cut all the ends off and kept all the connectors, and we bought all brand new PACCAR flame-proof wire, and Brian wired the car right from scratch. I don't care if they look underneath it or not. I know that's just the way I like to build it. And like my friend Sandy Marita, who painted the car for me, said one day, I told him, I said, you know, nobody's ever going to look underneath this car. I'm going to all this trouble. And he says, you know what? 90% of the people, they're not going to look under. You don't care about them. It's usually the 5 or 6% who do look underneath. You know, I mean, I was just a working person just like anybody else. There's only so much money to go around. And I just plugged away, and I did everything. I varnished it in this garage right here completely by myself. Sandy painted it at his body shop in New Westminster. I completely built the chassis myself. I'm not a welder, but I tacked everything together, and I have a friend who was a certified welder. So I bought a welder, and he would come over and he would weld everything together. It's got everything the car is supposed to have: signal lights, 4-way flashers, emergency brake works. I like building cars. I like working on them, but there's a lot of fabulous people involved in this hobby. There really is. Most of the guys I know, they don't have egos at all. They're just great guys, and they just like working on their cars, and they build some. I mean, there's some phenomenal cars that have come out of this area of British Columbia. You know, the thing is, a few years ago, people were saying, yeah, you know, the hobby's dying, but there's a lot of young people in this hobby that are very talented and very dedicated. You know, you go to some of these runs and you see these guys cruising in a Model A, and they're only like 35 years old, and thinking, you know what, this hobby's not dead yet. Far from it. Met a lot of great people. You know, that's the biggest part of it. I have been going for breakfast every Saturday for almost 45 years. Originally started with 7 or 8 guys. Now we have 40 or 50 guys show up every Saturday. So, you know, that's quite a thing, you know, to have that many friends for so long.